Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Today we're going to be talking about setting goals for your guitar practice. But before we get too much into it, I want to say that it is okay not to be interested in that. To be like, I just play guitar for fun. I've got a really stressful job. I want to come home. I just want to sit and noodle, like play the intros of 5 of my favorite songs. It's just a stress release thing. That is totally fine. What I noticed over the years is a lot of times at workshops and when I've been doing one-on-one lessons, a real common theme is this wanting to know how to set goals, how to practice, what things you should be practicing, how long you want to practice it for, all of that kind of stuff. I feel like a lot of people, if you don't set goals, you end up just kind of wandering around in guitar land. You start playing this because whatever, you got inspired to play guitar and you start playing this thing that you saw on YouTube or whatever, and then you go, oh, that looks kind of interesting, and you go over there and you do a bit of this, but you don't really stay focused on it for very long because something else distracts you, and you start practicing this other thing, and then, maybe you'd go and have a look at a bit at this, and then you might spend a little bit of time concentrating on something, but it's a bit too hard, and then you go off and do something else, and you wander around in guitar land for ages. You end up coming back to where you started from. You didn't, I didn't get anywhere, man. I've been playing guitar for 2 years. That's a really, really common feeling, and I think that a lot of that is solved by having some guitar goals. There are lots of different types of goals. Some people are going to have like really ambitious, big goals. They want to be the best guitar player that have ever walked the face of the planet. Other people are going to be like, yeah, I'd like to be able to play a song all of the way through. So goals can be vastly different. What I want to talk a little bit about today is how to break down these goals, how to make your goals SMART. Now, you've probably heard of this SMART as an acronym for it's used a lot in productivity and project management and stuff like that. There are lots of different, it's an acronym, so each of the letters of SMART stands for something. The ones that I feel work well for guitar practice is S being specific. So what you want to do is work out a specific goal that you're going to have. M should be motivating. Sometimes it's measurable in particularly project management things, but I think motivating is much more important. We're going to go through each one of these things, by the way, and talk a bit more about it. It should be achievable, so it should be like a realistic thing that you're going to do. Should be relevant, particularly when you're breaking a big goal down into little, smaller goals. And it should be trackable, so you should be able to track your progress on the journey. It's also good when you've got your practice routine cooking up as well. One of the things I think about a lot in my own teaching offerings is this differentiation between beginner course and my intermediate method. So all of my beginner lessons are very structured in a course. I don't think it's right for beginners to be worried about trying to find their goals and all of that sort of stuff. They should just want to play guitar. They can have short-term goals. Of course, definitely doesn't hurt to help with the motivation and all of that. But there is a very kind of specific program that I would recommend for beginners where you learn all of the really essential stuff. You've got your chords and strumming patterns and notes on the neck and all of that sort of stuff. When you hit the intermediate level, there are so many different branches on the tree that you're unlikely to be able to follow them all. So at that point, it's really important that you really start honing in your own specific goals so that you know if you want to get into jazz or whatever, what things do I need to do to be able to get there? If I want to learn blues, if I want to learn fingerstyle acoustic guitar, if I want to get into songwriting production, there's all of these different things that are very big goals that you need to break down into smaller goals. And that, for me, is much more an intermediate kind of level problem. For beginners, you follow the course. Here's the path. That's my job as your guitar guide, to help you through a very specific journey that'll give you all of the stuff that you absolutely need to know and hopefully prepare you for what's to come, which is what this lesson is specifically about. So next up, I'm going to break down that SMART acronym so that we know each of those elements and how they'll apply to your guitar practice. Then we're going to talk a little bit about big audacious goals, and then we'll talk about how to break them down into medium and short-term goals depending on how ambitious your big goals are. So the first area of our SMART goals is the letter S, which stands for specific. The more specific you can be about where you'd like to go, the better your chances are of getting there. You might say, hey, I want to play jazz. Okay, that's really broad. That's kind of helpful, but it's maybe not so helpful. That might be a big goal that you want to be really good at jazz, but it's kind of unachievable because it's so broad. So you might say, hey, I want to be able to play jazz. I like solo guitar. Okay, so like there's a lot of different types of solo guitar. Specifically, how much can you refine that? Okay, I would like to get into jazz. I'd like to get into solo jazz guitar, like playing jazz on by myself. I would like to get into the style of Joe Pass chord melody in the solo guitar style. Okay, that is a really good goal. That's a very specific goal. It's probably a pretty challenging one, but it's a very good, smart goal to start. It's very specific. Okay, because you've got this thing, you've got a very achievable thing. It could be, I want to play blues. Too broad again. I want to play Texas blues. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Do you want to improvise? Do you want to play rhythm guitar? What is there anything more specific you'd like to do? I would like to improvise in the Texas blues style, specifically like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay. Now we've got a very, very specific target that you can think about aligning all your practice to head toward that goal. Okay, the more you can refine that, it takes some thought, like nearly all of these things, it takes some practice. Setting your goals is going to take some practice. Learning how to set an achievable good goal for yourself is likely to take some practice. So don't be upset if when you start off, you end up with goals that are a little bit flabby and a little bit hard to define, and it's going to take some work to be able to get that. But I swear the first step of being very specific with your goals is probably the most helpful, more helpful than anything else. Particularly if you're going to go to a teacher and ask for help, the more specific you can be, the better it's going to be longer term. The second letter of SMART is an M, and I think it should stand for motivational. Some people call it measurable, but I just think being motivated to achieve your goal is so important. So whatever it is, when you're setting a goal for yourself and you go, right, I want to be able to do this. This is where I want to go. It needs to be something that inspires you. It needs to be motivating. When you start picking up your guitar, you want to go, right, I'm practicing my guitar because I want to go here. It needs to excite you. If it doesn't excite you, find something that does. Go back to the drawing board, think little bit more. Go back to okay, what is it that I really love about guitar? What is it that makes me super excited? Why did I pick up the guitar? Those are the things that you want to bear in mind when you're setting your goal. You don't want to set your goal to be something that you don't really want to do. Why would you do that? Why would you set your goal to be like, yeah, I really want to be able to play all 5 of my major scales really fast or something? I don't know. But maybe that's really exciting for you, actually. That's a bit condescending for me to say that those people who do practice scales really fast are not enjoying it. Because if that's really what you love, then great. That's okay. For most people, I feel like that would be a weird goal, but, who am I to judge other people's enjoyment? So find the things that excite you about playing and make sure that your goals are super aligned with that. The third letter of SMART is an A, and it means achievable. I think this is a really, really important part of it. We can all have dreams. It's okay to be like, one day I'd love to play on stage with Jeff Beck at the Albert Hall. That'd be awesome. But as a goal, that's pretty ambitious, and it might not ever be achieved, especially that particular one, because it involves other people. So I think the idea of having smaller, more achievable goals is better. You're fulfilling your goals. You're achieving them more often if they're smaller. And that is also good for your motivation, because you're like, well, I set out to do this thing and I've done it. That is awesome. So therefore you can kind of tick off that thing and keep your motivation going. It is okay to have big, hairy, audacious goals, big dreams. That's totally okay. But particularly with SMART goals, like which are generally going to be the medium and short-term kind of goals, you want to keep them achievable. Things that you feel like you can do, I think, within 6 months to a year. Okay, that's generally, maybe a month to a year would be actually, but within a month I tend to term the short-term goals. So 1 month to a year would be the medium-term goals, which is where this SMART stuff comes really into play, a little bit more maybe than on the really long-term goals. The fourth letter of SMART is the R, and it stands for relevant, particularly where we're using SMART goals for our medium and short-term things rather than the really big one. They want to be relevant to the big goal. If it's your goal to play in a band, then the smaller ones always want to be relevant to that. So like learning solo guitar is not going to help much with the playing in the band if that's the big goal. Now, It is very fluid, and it's okay to have kind of like sub goals of things. So you might find that as well as having the big goal of playing in a band, you want to do some gigs on the side on your own, in which case learning solo guitar things would be very relevant. So it wants to be relevant to a particular big goal. All of your short-term and medium-term goals, they want to be relevant to whatever it is where your focus is. Short-term goals are going to be pointed at medium-term goals. Medium-term goals are going to be pointed at the big ones. So when you're thinking about setting your specific goals, do think in terms of the relevancy of what it is that you're doing. And the last letter of SMART is T for trackable. Now, trackable has all sorts of different purposes, particularly with a practice routine. Being able to tick off that you've done those things each time, I think, is a really helpful part of the motivational cycle. But it should also be trackable in that you know when you've achieved your goal. So you're tracking your journey, and then you go, whoa, I've done it. I can play that Joe Pass chord melody, or I can improvise on a 12-bar blues, or I've played a jam with my friends at a party, or whatever it is that these medium-term goals are. You want to make sure that it's trackable, so you're following your progress along, and then bang, hey, I've done it. I've achieved my goals. That is awesome. So now you understand SMART a bit, I would recommend that you spend some time thinking about your guitar journey. What exactly is it that really gets you excited about playing guitar? Just thinking about that will really help you define your goals, because that's, I think, what you should be doing. And it depends a little bit. There are loads of different goals that we'll talk about later, and they all require very different journeys to reach the goal. If you want to be the best guitar player that ever walked the face of the planet, that's going to have a very different path to the person who wants to write songs, who wants to be a songwriter. And that would be very different to the person who wants to play in a band, just like, playing a pop covers band, which would be again different to the person who would be very happy to be able to play guitar to entertain their family and friends at a barbecue. The amount of steps involved, the amount of practice and dedication involved, there are so many different variables that go into each one of those goals that you need to think about it. And the clearer you can think about the goal and what it is that you want to do, the easier all of the rest of the stuff becomes. And like I said, this is not so much a beginner thing. If you're doing my grade 3 beginner course and you've encountered this lesson, now's the time to just start thinking about it. Give yourself, it's probably 6 months' time before you're going to hit the intermediate things, and you're going to have to make some decisions about what exactly it is that you're going to spend in your practice time. So think like, what inspired you to play guitar? What was the first thing that you really loved? That's obviously a very good question. What gives you the most satisfaction when you practice? When you're practicing different things, what are the things that you practice and you finish going like, oh man, I really enjoyed that. That was great. That's definitely something to bear in mind. That's going to be a good indicator to help you find out your big goals. What did you escape from to practice? That can also be very telling. What songs do you enjoy playing the most? What style of songs? What artist? What parts of the songs do you enjoy doing lead guitar? Do you enjoy strumming? Do you sing and play at the same time? Do you want to get into writing? There's all of these different. The more time you spend thinking, and I'd recommend writing it down as well. Like writing these things down is a really good way of sorting out all of those different ideas. If you just think, you might find that you have some really good ideas that get forgotten about. So write it down and think about, the closer you can get to defining a really big goal, which we're going to talk about in a sec, the more likely it is you're going to be able to achieve all of the stuff that you dream about. So let's talk a little bit about the big picture, your really big goals, the long-term goals, which I'm talking like 5 to 10 years. And they can be very, very different. You might want to be a rock star and tour the world. That would be a fantastic goal to have, particularly for younger people. It's a bit harder the older you get to achieve that one. But if you're young and ambitious, that could be a goal. It could be you want to make a living playing guitar. Okay, that one's a very interesting one. A lot of people have that. Requires a lot of thought. It's something that I'm planning to do on the website shortly, is to define some of these big goals and break them down into like a rough guide to where your journey is likely to go and the things that I think that you're probably going to want to study. But that making a living from guitar playing is a really interesting one, because it involves gigging, maybe with a band, solo guitar, teaching, sessions, writing, recording. There's lots of different facets of that. Very interesting one. Play regularly in a band is a very, very great goal. We're not talking like, doing anything super exciting, making records or writing. It could just be you want to get together with your mates once a week to rehearse, and then every month or two you're going to play, do a gig. It might be that you want to gig every week. It depends on your goals here a bit, but that's a really nice one. Could be that you want to record an album of original songs. Again, there's so many different facets to that. There's the writing part, there's the recording part, there's learning to record yourself, there's becoming a producer, understanding songwriting, marketing your stuff. There's all of these different facets. They're all very, very fascinating. But again, that would be a great goal. To become a full-time guitar teacher is another one that I encounter quite often. These are big goals. Maybe your goals aren't as lofty as that. They don't have to be. So, bear all of this stuff in mind. You don't have to have goals like what I've just been talking about. It could be that you want to play a live gig. Just one. You want to have in your life to have played live. Okay, that is a perfectly legit goal. It could be that you want to play for friends at a party. So when your friends come over, you want to be able to grab your guitar and play a Pink Floyd song and get all your friends singing along. That'd be awesome. It could be you want to teach guitar as a side income. You really enjoy playing guitar, you kind of got handy enough with it that you feel like it'd be a good thing. You enjoy teaching, you enjoy sharing your knowledge. Maybe you want to do a little bit of teaching on the side. Great goal. Could be to impress that pretty girl that you really like, girl or boy. Okay, that's a perfectly legit goal. Find out what music they like, and then next time you're at the same bar or whatever and somebody's got a guitar there, you'll be able to play a song there, and guitar's an amazing thing. Music is. It could be that you want to entertain your kids with music. I love playing music for my daughter. It's such a fun thing. Maybe that's a completely cool goal. And these could all be big long-term goals. So you can see there that the range of ambition, it can be vastly different. And that's totally all right. But having some idea of your long-term goal, I think, is really important because it helps you a lot with your medium and short-term goals. So once you've decided on your big goal, you need to start breaking it down to try and figure out how to get from where you are to where it is that you want to be. And for many people, that's one of the most difficult things, because you're like, well, I'm here and the place I want to get to is like way over there. I have no idea how to even start getting there. That's a real common problem. Some of it's just going to be down to you thinking about it and going, well, logically, if I want to get there, then probably the things that I need to do are that. I would definitely recommend going to hang out on the JustinGuitar community where there's hundreds of like-minded guitar players that you can chat with. Say, hey, I'm thinking about trying to get there. Has anyone done that? How do you get there? Is it better to take the boat or the ferry or the plane? What are the steps that you might need to do? What are the modules that you might want to study to get there? You'll probably find that there's a lot of helpful folk over there that'll help. It's also something that I've become very aware of in the course of writing this lesson, is that actually mapping out a general stepping stones for going from, like, if you want to go here, here's the stuff that you definitely need to do, and here's the things that little side trips that you might like to take along the way, because that's all obviously a common thing, and everyone's goals are so slightly different that there isn't one specific plan that I can write, but I'm going to try and do a few. So you'll probably find a link, if you're over on the website, there'll be a link in the text that'll take you to those little maps. So figuring out those medium-term goals, so between 1 month and 1 year, I would suggest is the next step. Then you want to break it down into much more very specific things that are going to be the stuff that you actually work on. So I think one thing that might be helpful is to talk about a few medium-term goals and how to break them into shorter-term goals, like very specific things that you might want to practice. So let's start off. Say you want to improvise better on a blues, like lead guitar stuff. That would be a medium-term goal. So I'd expect for most people that might take between a month and a year, depending on how much practice time you're doing. So if you want to improvise on a blues, there's a whole heap of things that you might want to practice, very specific things. You're probably going to want to learn some licks. You're going to want to learn to use those licks in an improvised context. You want to do work on very technical things like doing your string bending in tune, making sure your vibrato is good. You're going to learn a bit about practicing improvisation and phrasing, how to develop a solo. You're probably going to need a little bit of music theory to understand the relationship between the notes that you're using in your licks and how they relate to the chords. Maybe it's about how to change the licks depending on what the chord is. There's a heap of these little subsects that you want to be aware of, that they're the things, the short-term goals would be to bend in tune. So you'd be working on that for probably a month, little 5-minute slot, doing it every day or every couple of days, and that would be heading toward the longer-term goal of being able to improvise on a blues. You get the idea. So you need to think about the big picture and what are all of the different little things that make up that medium-term goal. Let's say that you want to get confident with strumming campfire songs. That'd be a good one, to develop a repertoire of stuff that you want to play. So Obviously, you need to know your open chords really well, so making sure you do all your 1 minute changes, you can play all of those chords confidently. If there's something with your strumming, figuring out what it is that's not working with your strumming and then working on that specifically. Might be about memorization of the songs that you want to play. It might be to do with singing if you want to sing and play at the same time. Could be about developing your confidence, learning to relax while you play, learning to lock into the groove. So playing along with the original recordings and trying to suck in that time feeling, making it feel good. There's loads of different little elements there that would be related to if you wanted to get better at your campfire playing. It could be to develop a solo repertoire, things that you could play on your own, either to play at a gig or to entertain your friends, but you don't want to sing. So in that element, there'd be a lot of different, it's probably, to be honest, that one would be more about learning set repertoire. Could be about making your own arrangements, but it's fairly complicated. So it's probably going to be finding and learning very specific arrangements of solo guitars and practicing that. But again, it could come into the technique stuff. Maybe you need to work on your finger stretch. Could be involve finger picking. There's all of these different, again, like trying to just break it down. Could be you want to be a songwriter. So if you want to be a songwriter, what are the things that you need to be able to do to be a songwriter? Well, obviously you need to be inspired to write a song. You need to probably study songs and song form, song structure, how it works, lyrics, rhyming. There's a heap of that sort of stuff. There's technical guitar stuff like being able to do simple things really well. If you want to be a songwriter, you only need to be able to, play basic chords and strum, but you need to be able to do it good, and you need to be in time with it. You need to learn about recording. You need to learn about maybe running a DAW. There's a heap of little elements to that you probably want to work on. If you want to play a jazz standard, you want to be able to play a jazz tune, you need to learn basic jazz chords. You need to get the rhythm sorted. You need to learn about substitutions. This is what part of the process here is recognizing the medium-term goals that are going to help you reach the big one, but then breaking those medium-term goals into very specific SMART goals that you can actually put into your practice routine. Trying to figure out a long journey on your own can definitely be very challenging, and it can be super helpful to get in touch with a good teacher and get some advice from them about the things that you might need to do and in what order. Now, we have some approved teachers on JustinGuitar.com that you might want to check out. They're probably going to be helping you along with that. But as well, one of the key things, no matter where you find a teacher, whether it's in person, local to you, or online, if you're having one-on-one interactions with a teacher, make sure that they're finding out what your goals are. I see it time and time again that teachers kind of superimpose their goals onto a student and try and force them into going in the direction of the teacher, because it's more fun for the teacher if the students are aligned with their goals. But that shouldn't be the point. The point of finding a good teacher should be to help you achieve your goals. So if in the first couple of lessons the teachers aren't saying to you, hey, what is it that you would like to do on guitar? What excites you? What can we do to keep you motivated to play? Then that would be a kind of a bit of a warning sign for me that you might not be with a teacher that's going to be suitable for you. As a parting gift to you, I'd like to give you one more really, really super cool tool, and that is to always ask why. No matter what it is, when it comes to guitar, ask why. Why am I doing this specific exercise? Why am I practicing this way? Why am I doing this? Why does Justin say you should practice for 5 minutes? Why does this person say I should learn the cage system? Keep drilling at the why. And once you've got one answer, ask why that is. Why does Justin say we should only do 5 minutes? Well, because you can practice lots of different things. Why is it good to practice lots of different things? Well, because when you practice lots of things, you become a holistic guitar player. Why is it good to be a holistic guitar player? Well, because if you're holistic, you can be very broad. But I want to be specific. So why is it going to be good to be a broad? Keep on going. Keep drilling that why. It's really good for life as well, not just guitar. So really try and understand the importance of asking why and how it can be helpful for you in loads of different ways. I would absolutely love to know what your guitar goals are. So log in on the website and head to the discussion area for this very lesson and just type in what your guitar goals are. You're going to find it very helpful for you because you're going to have to think about it and define them. It's really helpful for me because it'll help me with my mapping that I'm doing right now. So trying to figure out exactly how to write down the adventures or a suggested path for particular guitar adventures. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people and it'll be helpful for other people to see your guitar goals. You might find that you've inspired someone, or you might find that you're inspired by somebody else's goals. So it'd be really helpful if you take the time to do that. Join up with our guitar community. I really hope you enjoyed this session. I'll see you for plenty more lessons very soon. You'll take care of yourselves out there. Bye-bye.